All right, if you're a Java developer, you already know that concurrency questions can absolutely make or break a technical interview. So today, we're going to deep dive into one of the most important tools you have for multithreading, Java's atomic variables. Let's get right into it.
Just think about that for a second. You've got 1,000 threads all hammering away at the same single number, trying to increment it. I mean, without the right kind of protection, you are walking straight into a classic race condition. The final count, it's going to be a total mess. And this right here is the exact problem that atomic variables were built to solve. And they do it with some serious elegance and efficiency.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start with that core problem, then introduce the beautiful lock-free solution. After that, we'll pull back the curtain and reveal the secret sauce that makes it all work. Then we'll expose a really critical flaw that you absolutely have to know for your interviews. And finally, we'll stage a showdown to help you figure out exactly when to use which tool.
Okay, so that shared counter we were just talking about, that's a textbook race condition. You have all these threads racing to read the value, add one to it, and write it back. And in the process, they just stomp all over each other's work. Now, the traditional way to fix this is using the synchronized keyword, which basically puts a big lock on your code. And yeah, it works, but it can be kind of heavy. It forces all the other threads to just stand there and wait in line, and that can really slow your application down. But what if? What if you could get all that thread safety without making your threads wait? Well, that's exactly where the java.util.concurrent.atomic package comes in. You can think of it as Java's modern, super sleek alternative to those explicit locks, at least for simple operations. It gives you a way to perform actions on a single variable that are guaranteed to be atomic, completely indivisible. Now here's the definition you'll want to remember for an interview, and the two key phrases you need to burn into your memory are lock-free and low-level CPU instructions. See, this isn't some kind of magic that's just happening inside the Java virtual machine. Nope. This is Java reaching down and using powerful, lightning-fast features that are built right into the hardware, right into the CPU itself. That's where the performance comes from.
And this whole concept isn't just for integers either. It works for longs, for booleans, and even for any generic object you want using atomic reference. Oh, and see that last one on the list, atomic stamped reference? Keep that one in the back of your mind. It solves a really subtle but really dangerous bug that we're going to talk about in just a bit.
And just look at how clean the code is. You just create a new atomic integer, and then you call a method like increment and get. And that's it. That one little method call is guaranteed to be thread safe. There's no bulky synchronized block, no extra boilerplate, just a simple, direct atomic operation. It's beautiful.
So you're probably wondering, how in the world does Java pull this off without using locks? Well, the magic behind it all is an operation called compare and swap, or CAS for short. This is the engine that drives the entire atomic library. And really understanding how this works, well, that's what separates a pretty good interview answer from a truly great one. So compare and swap, or CAS, is an instruction that happens at the hardware level. It basically says this: hey, I expect the current value in memory to be X. If it is still X, go ahead and update it to Y. But if it's not X anymore, then just do nothing and let me know that I failed. And the crucial part is that this whole check and update thing happens is one single indivisible operation. It's kind of like trying to save a document on a shared drive. You can only save your changes if nobody else has saved a new version since you first opened it.
So let's see how Java uses this. When your code calls something like increment and get, it's not just one single CAS operation. It's actually a loop. Your thread reads the current value, it figures out the new value, and then it uses CAS to try to make the update. Now, if some other thread snuck in and changed the value first, the CAS operation fails. But here's the cool part. Instead of going to sleep, the thread just says, whoops, okay, I'll try again. It just goes back to step one, reads the new value, and repeats the whole process. That's why we call this a non-blocking or lock-free approach.
And this slide just perfectly illustrates the two outcomes. On the left, you've got the happy path. Thread 1 expects the value to be 5. It is 5, so it updates to 6. Success. But look at the right. This is where things get interesting. Thread 1 expects 5, but before it can make its move, Thread 2 jumps in and changes the value to 8. So when Thread 1's CAS operation finally runs, it sees the current value is 8, which does not equal the 5 it expected. So the update is rejected, and Thread 1 has no choice but to go back and start all over again.
Okay, so at this point, compare and swap seems pretty foolproof, right? It's fast, it's lock-free, what's not to love? Well, it has one very subtle but very critical weakness that interviewers just love to ask about. It's called the ABA problem. And if you don't know what it is, you could accidentally introduce some really nasty bugs into your code. Let's just walk through this timeline together. At time 1, thread 1 reads a value, we'll call it A. But before it can do anything with it, it gets paused, While it's sleeping, thread 2 swoops in, changes the value from A to B, does some work, and then changes it right back to A. Now thread 1 wakes up, it goes to do its cast check, it asks, is the current value the AI expected? And the answer is yes, the check passes, but thread 1 has absolutely no idea that the state was secretly modified and then changed back. It's been completely fooled.
So how on earth do we fix this? Well, remember that special class I told you to keep in mind? This is its moment to shine. This is where atomic stamped reference comes to the rescue. It doesn't just store a value, it pairs that value with a version number, or what we call a stamp. Every single time the value gets updated, the stamp gets incremented too. So now the cast operation checks both the value and the stamp. And that, my friends, completely solves the ABA problem.
All right, we've gotten deep into the weeds of how this stuff works. Now it's time for the practical payoff. Because in an interview, you are almost guaranteed to be asked this question. When should you use an atomic variable? And when should you just stick with good old synchronized? Knowing the trade-offs here is absolutely essential.
This table really lays it all out. Atomics are lock-free and non-blocking, right? And that gives them a massive performance edge when there isn't a ton of contention. But, and this is a big but, their scope is limited to just a single variable. On the other hand, synchronized is lock-based. It can cause threads to block and wait, but it's way more flexible. You can use it to protect really complex operations that involve changing multiple variables all at once. So the key takeaway is this. Atomics are a specialized tool for high-speed, single-variable updates. They are not a silver bullet for every concurrency problem you'll face.
Now, if you need one perfect, concise sentence to use in your interview, this is it right here. It shows that you understand the main benefit, you're avoiding blocking, but you also get the primary drawback, which is that under really heavy load, all those constant CAS retries can actually start to hurt performance because the CPUs are just spinning and spinning, trying again and again. And just to make sure you really sound like a seasoned pro, here are the traps you need to avoid. Please, don't ever say that atomics replace synchronized. They complement each other. Don't claim they're always faster because of that high contention issue we just talked about. And most importantly, never ever suggest using an atomic variable for an operation that needs to atomically update multiple variables at once. That is a job for locks, period.
So, to wrap it all up, here is your strong, confident closing statement. This one sentence summarizes everything we've covered. The mechanism, which is CAS, the primary benefit, which is scalability, and the critical things to watch out for, like the ABA problem and their limited scope. Saying something like this shows a really deep and nuanced understanding of the whole topic.
And that brings us to the final question, and this one's for you to think about. The next time you're building something and you're faced with a shared variable in a multi-threaded world, which tool are you going to reach for first? And even more importantly, why? Knowing the answer to that is what truly makes you a master of concurrency. Thanks so much for joining me.